Hey HBs, we're back with another episode of Heaving Bosoms, a romance novel podcast, where Erin and Melody catch up weekly and recap and review a new romance novel every time. We're charting new territory together, starting with this episode. This will be part 1 of The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. Let's jump in, because it's pretty juicy. Hi, Erin.
Hey, Mel. How's it going?
Oh, I am fantabulous. How the hell are you?
Listener Melody just told me a highly personal story that we can't tell on the podcast, but I'm just reeling from it.
Yeah, can you imagine, listener, a story that I won't share on this medium because apparently I share fucking everything. That's not true. But like my level of share is so much. Is it lower or higher than other people? Lower than other people. Yeah.
From zero to crotchless leggings, this was worse than crotchless leggings.
And honestly, if I were the only one involved, I would share it. But because it involves someone else, I can't.
Right.
You know,
right.
Because I am a good friend. At the end of the day, that supersedes everything else.
Aw, that's very sweet.
So what's new with you?
Let me tell you what I came here to tell you.
Oh, bring it on.
I didn't come here to talk about the Duchess deal.
That's right. She's currently holding a smoothie of some sort.
I am. It's a banana nut smoothie. I just came in from working out. David was leaving to go to the gym, and I was holding this smoothie. And I told him by the end of this conversation, I'm about to go record the podcast, and I'm going to tell everybody about this. I marched up here to talk to you.
Uh-oh.
So now I owe it to him. So this is a phenomenon in Alaska, and I think the Northwest, these little drive-through coffee stands.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think they exist everywhere in the
I don't
States.
think so either.
They haven't in anywhere else I've lived. Maryland,
no, but in
Louisiana, Illinois.
in Oregon, they're big, too. Dutch Brothers
Right.
is one of the big ones. A human being, yeah.
Right. So, like, a couple years ago or so, a year ago, David just starts showing up with these smoothies all the time. Just, like, constantly has these protein shakes. I'm like, where are you getting those? And he tells me. And I realize it's one of these coffee stands. And listener, if you're not familiar with these, about 50% are regular and the other 50% are like bikini babes, young, hot lady stripper sort of coffee stands, which is totally fine. Like some of them are like literally in bikinis or like something sexy. Some are just like young, hot women. But
wait, in Alaska?
Oh, yeah. Bikini babe coffee stands are a big deal.
But how do you open the window and hand things to people in Alaska?
Yeah. It makes them cold, which makes it sexier.
No.
I don't know if they're cold or turned on.
Turned on.
Like, yeah, I don't
Luke
know.
Martineau.
So, yeah, so he's like, oh yeah, that coffee and protein shake stand by our house. And I was like, oh, is it a regular one? Or is it a different kind of coffee stand? He's like, well, I don't know, So I was like, okay, I'm going to go drive through one of these and get me a protein shake. So I do. This has been a long time ago. And I realize it's not like the bikini one, but they're all like very fit, young, college age, like sexy ladies that work at this thing.
Sure.
So I come back with a shake and I'm like, oh, I went and got a shake at your special coffee stand. And he's like, oh, who was working? Was it Amanda? Was it Becky? Was it Christina? You know, he starts. And I was like, you. So now we've got this big joke. We're like, because also I drank the shake and I was like, this is a pretty good shake. So now we've got this joke where I go through and, you know, I'm like, they like me more than you sort of thing. So
cute.
I came back with this shake and he's like, who was it? And I'm going to protect the names of these women because they're just trying to make a living and not be in our personal life. But he's like, you know, was it Danielle? Was it so-and-so? And I was like, it was Danielle. And like, she knew my order. I drove up and she was like, what do you want? Banana nut? And he's like, Danielle says the same thing to me, only she doesn't say banana. And I was like, and he like got one out of the room. Like, I'm telling the whole podcast about this. So, anyway,
amazing.
But the shakes are really good. I do not think the shakes are why David goes to the coffee stand. I'm going to be honest there. I do
Good
think
for him.
it's Danielle, but
Sure.
I like the shakes. The banana nut bread is the best if you are an Anchorage person and you know the particular coffee stand that I'm talking about.
Excellent.
What's new with you?
What's new with me? All right, here we go. Today, I was putting Ever down for his nap.
Here we go. How can it be better? How can it be more here we go than what I had to listen to when I first sat down?
Because it's in the same theme. It's in the theme of Melody is a 13-year-old boy.
Okay.
I think this should be a whole segment unto itself.
All right. So, Melody is a 13-year-old boy.
Ka-chow! So I'm putting Ember down for his nap, and he's gotten to the point where he's very, very independent. And so he wants to do our before nap ritual and then lay the fuck down. And I would like just a little bit of a snuggle, mayhaps, but not really. I don't really care. So he pops up, he sits up on me, and he's like, okay, lay down. And I was like, wait, I gotta make sure. I just want to hear a burp. I want one burp. And so since we speak...
Wait, Ember says he wants to hear a burp?
No, I told him that. Because a couple of times last week, he burped while laying down. And then I had to wash the sheet afterwards because he's 21 months old. And sometimes reflux is a thing. I don't fucking know. So plus I was just playing with him. I just wanted a little bit more time. So I was like, I just want one burp, give me a burp. And since we speak Chinese to him, I was like, Ember da ga, because that's basically Mandarin. It's crazy white girl saying it, but it's, it's Mandarin-ish. And so then
does it mean burp? Or?
Yeah, it means Ember burp. And so then he
all
looks
the
at
Mandarin
me.
I know is from Firefly, and so.
Oh, and that is woof. That is not Mandarin.
Yeah, believe me, I know. But same level, crazy white girl Mandarin.
There you go. So then he looks at me and he starts going, Mama Daga, Mama Daga. So I just start burping on cue. And every time he does it, he just cracks the hell up. He's sort of cradled-ish. He was on my shoulder, and then he's moved over, and he was cradled in my arms going, Mama Daga. And then I would. And then he would crack the hell up. We probably did this 10 times.
Wait, so you can just burp on cue?
Yes. Can't everyone?
No, I can't burp on cue. Yeah, no, I can't do it. Oh my God. So how are we going to talk about England times after this, Melody?
They burped in England times, okay? They just had to say, pardon me, or something afterwards. I'm not going to. So anyway, I put him down for his nap, and he was a little bit turnt after that. It was not a smart mom move, but it really fed my 13-year-old boy soul, and it was nice.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Being a mom is really fun sometimes because I just get to be really, really sophomoric. It's excellent. Okay. Speaking of sophomoric, England times, when you were never allowed to be sophomoric.
Although, I will say that this book is squarely within England times.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say.
Within England times. But flirts a little bit with Sherlock Holmes times.
Oh, no.
Which I know, historically speaking, I believe to be the same time period in England.
No, it's later.
Listen.
Isn't it
historically
way
speaking,
later?
I think England times eclipses Sherlock Holmes times.
It's not historically speaking. Erin
because none of this is historically speaking.
As far as Erin's view of historical romance novels, then sure. I can't believe they're not all the same thing.
They're very close to being
medieval
all the same
thing.
It goes from medieval. England times goes all the way from medieval to 1925.
See, that is closer to Sherlock Holmes times.
But eclipsed in there is Sherlock Holmes times.
Oh boy.
Is Revolutionary War times. Is Highlander times. Depending on the mood of the story and the location of it.
It's true.
England times is an overarching.
Also, every time we say that, I think that we're wrong. I think that if it's going to be anything, it has to be Highland times, because Highlander times makes me think of Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod and their swords. And
are you honestly worried about being wrong?
No, I'm worried about creating the correct feeling. I don't think people because Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod or whatever the fuck his name was is much more paranormal than it would be Highland times. So
are we talking about Outlander? Is that
no? We're talking about Highlander, my friend. Highlander.
Oh, Highlander,
the crazy
the film.
Sword.
There can only be one.
Schmur.
No,
there can
I'm
only
sorry.
be one.
No, I don't care.
That's fair.
Because I believe
Fair.
that the film Highlander was not set in Highlander times. So
No,
it
was
doesn't
set-
matter. We don't have to risk it. No one's going to get confused.
Fair. No, this isn't confusing at all, Erin.
That was
Not
a time
just on
travel
its
movie.
face. And also, I think he was immortal, so he lived in Highlander times.
You think he was immortal? That was the whole point of the movie, is that they're immortal until they cut off your head, and then there can only be one. That's literally the only thing I remember about it.
Wait, was Harrison Ford in the original Blade Runner?
Sean Connery. How many movies do you think Harrison Ford was in?
No, I said
It's
in
like
the
you
original
made that
Blade Runner.
You made that mistake one time, and now you think Harrison Ford was in every movie.
No, I was doing a callback, Erin, honestly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, cool callback. Great comedy. I'm sorry. No one's listening anymore. Do you think we should do the book?
Guys.
Because they're not even...
No, okay, we have to do the book because it was so good. It was the best book ever. It was so, so good. Okay, we are here to talk about The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare, everyone.
Now, when you say best book ever, do you believe it was better than When a Scot Ties a Knot?
Oh, don't do that to me.
Right?
I knew you were going to say that to me, and I didn't. You know what I meant by that. I don't know if it was better than A Scot Ties a Knot.
I was just wondering what you think, because I'm torn.
Oh, I'm really torn. I don't know.
Dare I say, I think I like this hero better than Logan McKenzie.
Really?
But I think I like the heroine
in the other one better. I don't know.
And
the heroine in this
she
one's
is better
really
for any
good.
reason. Yeah, she's great. But I just found her
you
quirkier.
you just love that she drew snails.
Yeah, I love her snails.
You love the shit out of those snails.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't know. I think I have to say I love them equally, which is a total cop-out, but I've become a mom now, and I think I'm allowed to do that.
No one ever loves anybody equally.
Says the only child. Okay.
Yeah, also, the chances of me having not one child, but two are very slim, so I feel like I can say that with confidence.
Fair. Okay. I would like to introduce Emma Gladstone, who is the heroine, and the Duke of Ashbury, who is the hero. So the Duke of Ashbury, and I'm calling him that. I'm not calling him his real name because he doesn't have a real name. They talk about what he could be called, and he's only
George.
ever been called. I don't talk about that. Ugh. That was also her father's name, so it doesn't exist. But I'm getting ahead of myself, listener. So the novel opens. She is a seamstress. She is walking around outside trying to get up her nerves, and she's in this horrendous wedding dress.
Well, expertly fashioned.
Oh, of course. Oh, no.
But ugly design. Or just over the top.
Yes, exactly. Later on, he describes it as unicorn vomit.
Yes.
Or the pelt of some snow beast rumored to menace the Himalayas. Which made me so happy. So she is going to knock on his door because she needs payment for this gown. And nobody has paid her in months and months and months.
She made the gown.
Yes, she made the gown. And so she goes in. She knocks on the door. She has no calling card. She has no anything because she's a seamstress. She's like a servant, right? And the butler shows her into the library. But before that, the Duke of Ashbury was writing a letter to his solicitor saying like a bunch of stuff. And then the last thing was that he needed a wife because he needs to create an heir. So this is like on his mind as she walks in. Because it's
like reluctantly writes it too. He's like, ugh, wife, need a wife. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't blame him given his previous experiences. So Khan, the butler, walks in and he's like, there's a woman here to see you. And she's wearing a wedding dress. And he's like, okay, show her right in. She comes in and she's like, Your Grace, I need payment for this immediately. It is past due. I have written to you. I am being evicted. I have nothing but moldy potatoes in my larder, I'm going to say. Yeah.
Welcome to my world.
And like, she needs to pay for it. And so he's fairly charmed by her. He doesn't really understand why she's a seamstress because she seems like I think his exact words, and I laughed out loud at this, were there's entirely not enough hand wringing about this request. Like you should be looking down at the floor. You should be terrified of me. What's going on? Why aren't you? And he finds out that she's a vicar's daughter who is now turned to seamstress, which means that she is of gentle breeding or something like that.
Right.
She's a gentleman's daughter. So what we find out is that this was the dress of his intended, but she left him because of his crazy ass scars all over his face. Because he was in a battle. He was in the Battle of Waterloo, and a mortar turned back on him and blew him the fuck up.
But only on one side, so he looks like Two-Face from Batman.
Yeah, he does. Two-Face from Batman. And yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
So she made this wedding dress for his betrothed, and then since they didn't get married, she didn't get paid. She's about to get thrown out, so she shows up and she's like, I need that money. And she wore the wedding dress for effect.
Yeah. Yeah, she was just like, I didn't think that you would pay any heed to me if I just showed up as myself. So here's what I made. Pay me for it. And so he goes, sure, I will. But I'm going to need the dress. And she takes a couple seconds to think about it. And then she's like, it's either get unclothed right now in front of this man or sleep on the street. So, all right, here we go. And she starts disrobing in front of him. And so he stops her and he's like, stop. Okay, whoa. And then in his brain, he's like, okay, she's of gentle birth. I don't know whatever. She's educated and she's willing to get naked in front of me. Checks all my boxes.
Healthy.
Yeah, healthy, right? So he's like, okay, you can have this money or I can make you a duchess.
She's like, what?
And she's like, you're making fun of me. Stop making fun of me. Give me my money. I gotta go.
Wait, though, before this happens, I have to, can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
So he asks her, how does the daughter of a gentleman end up being a seamstress? Because that's not something that happens. And she's like, well, sometimes life takes an unexpected turn. And he says, well, that is a grave understatement. And then he says, Fortune was a heartless witch in perpetual anticipation of her monthly courses. And didn't Ash know it? And I just want to tell you this. Have I ever told you about my hairdresser?
No.
This is the only story I have. Actually,
the one
I just
in
told her
Alaska?
about the podcast a couple weeks ago, so maybe she's listening. Yeah. So the first time I visited this hair salon 3 years ago or whatever, I'm like, I just need a hair salon. I go in there. She got in a fight, like while doing my hair, she got in a fight with like the front desk lady. And I think there was like a hairbrush thrown, but it wasn't in the same room I was in. And then she comes back into the room and she's doing my hair. And she's talking to one of the other hairdressers about what a bitch the front desk woman is. She doesn't work at the same salon anymore. It's fine.
Oh.
She's talking to one of the hairdressers.
You think?
It's fine. About what a bitch the front desk woman is. And she's like, what is she, like a werecunt and it's a full moon or something? And I thought that was...
I would follow her anywhere.
The best insult I've ever heard in my life. So I'm giving that to you, HBs. What is she, a werecunt and it's a full moon or something?
Oh my God.
And I was like, I don't, like at the time, she hadn't even dried my hair. So I'm like, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm going to be back.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I will be back.
That's incredible.
Anyway, but that's exactly the same statement that Ash makes. Fortune was a heartless witch in perpetual anticipation of her monthly courses. That's the same thing. Anyway, I highlighted it. I was like, werecunt. All right, so back to the story.
Werecunt!
Okay. We'll just put an extra big E on this one for explicit, I guess. I think this is the first time we've thrown cunt out there.
I think that all of them have to be super explicit, but that's cool. Okay. So she turns him down because she's like, that's not even a real offer. Like, she's not even turning him down. She's just like, stop making fun of me. Oh, and then she's like, are you actually mad? Like, I'm going to approach this money slowly and then back out of the room very slowly and then run away and pay my rent. And he thinks to himself, don't worry, Duke. She'll be back.
She also says, surely you don't mean through marriage.
Yeah.
And he says,
oh my God. He brings up the laws of primogeniture.
Yeah. He's like, no, I intend to use my vast influence in the House of Lords to overturn the laws of primogeniture and then persuade Prince Regent to primogeniture.
Yeah.
Then persuade Prince Regent to create a new title and duchy? I don't know. It was like a whole thing. That accomplished, I will convince him to name a Victor's daughter from Hertfordshire a duchess in her own right. Of course, I mean through marriage. I am a duke. I am not asking you to marry me. I am offering to marry you. It's a different thing entirely.
It is a different thing. Oh man, he is so hung up on what dukes do and what brides do throughout this whole thing. It makes me really happy in a really odd way. It shouldn't.
I'm very in love with him.
Fucking love it.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, he ticks all the right asshole boxes for you, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay.
Exactly the ones.
Okay.
Danielle has the same order for me, except for she doesn't say banana.
Oh my god. So
I don't want to imply David's an asshole. I didn't mean that. I just meant,
no,
I
he's
like
the right type of asshole.
Yeah, you need a little pepper in your pie.
Yeah, Michael is the same way. So wait, one thing that I will say about this whole thing is that it's going to be really hard for me not to turn this into Heaving Bosoms, a romance novel podcast where we read you the whole book. Like that is how this is probably going to work. Okay, so she says no. The next day, isn't she fitting Davina at that point?
It's Davina, I think.
Yeah.
So she's fitting a woman for a gown, and she's clearly about 5 months pregnant, and they've become friends over the time that she's been Davina's seamstress. But Emma doesn't want to be rude by being like, hey, you're pregnant, I can tell, even though they're friends. So she's like, oh, I've got to let this one out. And she's like, oh, too many tea cakes, I guess. And then they kind of come clean. And she's like, I don't know what to do. There was an artist and I loved him and he left and I don't know what to do. So she's like, I'll try to help you if I can. Then
she's closing up the shop. Oh, yeah, she's closing up. She's about to lock the door. And the door is locked and he's pounding. So she goes up to it and he just pushes his way past her.
I am Duke.
I am Duke.
I go into shop.
Yes. He goes in and he says that he wants a waistcoat. And she's like, well, you've come to a dressmaking shop. So sorry. And he goes, fine. I want a dress for a woman roughly my size. And I want it now.
Yeah.
And so she says that he has to be measured for it. And he jumps atop the stool and does this little ta-da move, which I really found adorable in my mind's eye. And she gets to measuring him.
Yeah. She's like, if you want a gown. And he's like, no, I don't want a gown. And she's like, okay, if your very ugly Duke-sized friend wants a gown, I need measurements.
Yep.
She says, I need your sleeve, I need your torso, your hem. She arched an eyebrow. Bosom. She thinks he's gonna be like, fuck it, I'm out of here. But then he doesn't.
Yeah.
She measures him sexually.
Yeah, so
let's see.
As that happens, he's like, so I made you an offer yesterday.
Do you want to accept it?
Right. How do you feel about that now? And she's like, that wasn't an offer. That wasn't a thing.
So he's like, it was an honest offer. I intend to marry you. I would like to make you a duchess. And she's like, get out of here. Stop laughing at me.
Right.
I'm gonna leave. And he's like, okay, well, get into my carriage. I will drive you home. And she's like, I'm like blocks away.
I want to walk. Like, yeah.
And he's like, my feet are even closer. Yeah. So he walks with her, and she's very cold and shivery, and she's like so absent on this walk home because she's so distracted because she doesn't know what's going on. She leads them into like a very dangerous park sort of situation.
Oh, that's after she almost walks into an apple cart and he has to catch her, and then they almost kiss.
I forgot about that.
And then they keep going. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. He makes such romantic gestures to her on this walk as, you are a healthy woman of childbearing age. You are a gentleman's daughter. You are educated. You are passably pretty. Not that that's a concern for me,
right?
But a child should have at least one non-hideous parent. And you're here. All my requirements are met. You'll do. That was probably the most unfeeling proposal she could imagine, which is true. So anyway, they end up in this park that's dangerous, and he's like, this is a dangerous park. And then, like, as if just to prove his point, these men appear out of nowhere, and they're like, give me all your jewels and stuff. So he's like, yeah, and like jumps into protective mode.
Wait. Sorry, yes? I have to say one thing. After he says all of that, my thing is, she was thinking to herself, the man was cynical, insensitive, condescending, rude, and she was definitely going to marry him.
Right, because how could she not? Like, she's kind of putting up fight for her pride, but like she's a seamstress. Like she's going to be a duchess. There's no, you know, she's got to do this.
Yeah.
So anyway, so these guys appear.
Yeah. And I love that part because his inner monologue is totally fine. He's just like, get on with it. Tell me that you want my shit and I'll tell you that you can go get stuffed. And then the moment that they attack Emma's honor, he's just like, nope. And that's when he gets all protective.
Yeah. So he's like starting to beat them up, and then the wind blows his hat off, and they see his scars, and they're like, "Ah, this is the devil!" And they run away.
And then they run away.
And it says something. I don't remember what it was. No victory had ever been so hollow.
Yeah,
it's very sad. So they ran away from his scars. He looks next to him, and he sees that she's not there either, and he's like, "Oh, she's run away as well. Great, I'm ugly and scarred, and I'm going to be alone forever." And then he turns and he sees that she had run back to get a tree branch.
Brandishing a tree branch. And she's going to back his ass up.
He's warmed and he's like, she was going to protect me, the devil, you know, my twisted face and scars. Very, very sweet. So he's like, wait a minute, don't even go home because we're going to get married. So you're going to go to a hotel. You can go home and collect your things. And he's like, you know what? Don't collect your things. I don't want your moldy potatoes.
Yeah.
Just go to the hotel and I'll send a carriage for you tomorrow. And she's trying to figure out something to get her like pride together. Like she has to have some demand in this union. Like something has to be like hers.
Well, and so not to mention that looking forward to a life with a man who says, you're here, you'll do. Like, she'd like something to be able to, I don't know, snuggle at night or care for. So she looks at him and she's like, I have to be able to bring my cat. And he's like, oh, for a bride of convenience, you're becoming most inconvenient or something like that.
And her inner monologue is,
she didn't even have a cat.
Emma, you idiot, you don't even have a cat. So now not only does she have to go to this hotel and like wait for his carriage, she also has to find a cat on the way. It's great.
Oh, it's so good. So then we jump straight to the wedding.
Yeah. I mean, she appears with the cat the next morning.
I love this.
It's just like the most dumpster cat that's ever lived. And
it's obviously malnourished. It's like the bitch has got mange. Like, I don't know what's happening with it. And so they're staring at each other, and he obviously doesn't like the Duke either. But he looks at Emma and he's like, what's its name? And she is like, like obviously pulled from a thought. And he goes, what's its name? And she goes, Breeches. So the cat is nearby. She was
looking at his breeches and how he filled out.
Oh, she was looking at his peen.
His breeches. We don't know that yet. She told us.
We don't know that yet. Yeah. Spoiler alert, Erin, honestly.
And then she's like, I can't let him go or he'll run away and we'll never find him in this huge Duke house.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you can't hold a cat during our wedding. And she's like, yeah, I can. And then I think it bites her or something. She drops it and just like it goes off in a streak. And then she's like, well, we'll never see that again.
And he's like, one can only hope.
Yeah.
So then they go in to get married, and she's like, well, if you want me to sign all these documents, then I'm going to need a minute. And so he goes to the other side of the room, and she starts reading them. And he's like, what are you doing? Because he's very nervous as well. He wants to get this over with before she comes to her senses in his mind. And she's like, well, I don't sign anything I don't read. Do you?
He's like, you literally have nothing to lose. Like,
yeah. He's like, yeah. She's like, well, he had a good point, but I will still read everything I sign. And so then she bonds. I love her so much. She bonds with Con the butler. He's like, FYI, we're really pulling for you. You're either going to be the making of him or he's going to be the breaking of you. And like, we're all here with you. We're all ready to support you.
We're all rooting for you.
Yeah.
And she's like, do you have any advice for me? Like, how do I, and he's like, I suppose it's too late to run away. So maybe drinking heavily would be.
Right.
She's like, oh, shit.
She's like, oh, great, everyone. Still signs the paper, still gets up and they marry. 2 servants sign as witnesses because he has no friends. And
also
then,
before that, their agreement is basically.
No, they haven't made the agreement yet.
Oh, they haven't talked about it yet?
Mm-mm. They're about to make the agreement.
Didn't he say no kissing before the wedding?
No, not yet. No.
Okay. Sorry.
So the marriage is over, and he says there's going to be a few rules in this. Oh, she says, I want to have dinner nightly.
That's after.
No. Mm-mm. She's like, if we're going to have the... Is it?
Let's have an all-out fight here on the podcast. This is the hill I will die on. I don't know. I honestly don't. I think it's after, but like...
I thought it doesn't matter.
I thought he did his rules, and then she was like, okay, your rules are noted. Here are mine. I thought was how it went.
Oh, yeah. I think... No, you're totally right. You're totally right.
Good, because I died on that hill for this.
You didn't. You didn't die. You made it out alive on that one.
Oh, yeah. That's how that...
That's how that works. Yeah. So I'm really glad that you're an army lawyer and not an army strategist.
You don't know.
I don't know. You're right. I don't know how things are worked. There are so many acronyms I could never keep up. Okay. So he says, here's the way this is going to work. No kissing, no affection. We're married at night, basically only. I will come to your bed nightly. You will permit me. And as soon as you're with child.
And no lights.
Oh, and no
lights when we do the sex.
Right. He describes it as it will be as dignified as it possibly can be, which sounds like the worst sex in the world.
And quick.
Oh,
he's like, yeah. Also, I haven't had sex in 2 years, so I can at least promise you it will be very quick.
Yeah.
And she's like,
and then, and he's like, and as soon as you're with child, we're done. You go off to the country house to raise the kid, and we're good to go. And so she's like, fine, I have a rule of my own then. I will acquiesce to all of those, but I want dinner nightly. And he's like, fine, we can have dinner. And then she says, and I want a kiss. And he's like, woman, didn't you just hear me say no kissing? And she's like, no, I want a kiss for my wedding because that's what I want. I didn't get a wedding in any other way that I imagined. I would like a kiss to seal the deal. And so she's like, you don't even have to kiss me. Here, I'll just lean up into you and I'll kiss you. And he goes, no. The bride does not kiss the Duke. The Duke kisses the bride.
It's a different thing entirely.
So she closes her eyes and waits for him. And it takes him.
Yeah, she almost changed his mind. She says,
oh, yeah. Get it.
Okay. She was on the verge of opening her eyes and slinking from the room and constructing a fortification of pillows, novels, and kittens in which to hide for the remainder of her life when his hands cupped her face, rough and possessive. Just when she was certain she'd combust from the cruel suspense of it all, his lips touched hers. Something inside her came apart, that hidden pocket of yearning that she'd sewn up tight years ago. His kiss ripped it open at the seams. A flood of emotion poured forth, overwhelming her, a surge of passion and desire and something else. Something... Are you fanning yourself? Something she didn't want to acknowledge, much less name. She'd pour over it later, more doubt, but her mind wouldn't allow her to let it alone. And then it switches to...
him.
And he's says, got the same...
Oh, man, it's so good. But he says, I'm just going to read a tiny part of it. The kiss unfurled tendrils of madness in his brain. Everything was wrong. Everything was right. Everything was possible. Ugh.
So good.
So good.
And during the wedding, so he's got one half of his face is super scarred up. The other half is very handsome. And she keeps looking at him and staring at him and then realizing that he thinks that she's staring at him because his face is all mangled. But she's really just like kind of drawn to him and wants to see what he looks like. But every time she tries to like take
so she does the very natural thing in early flirtation where you look at someone and you're not sure, like, if you're allowed that, like, close intimacy. And so when they look at you, you avert your eyes. But in his case, psychologically, he can only think of one reason she would avert her eyes so quickly when he caught her.
Stare. Like, she either averts her eyes or, like, blatantly stares at him.
Yes. And it's a no-win situation from his perspective, you know? So... After everything, Emma is shown to her room where she meets Mary, her lady's maid, who is adorable. And then she really learns that the staff is all pulling for her to the point that Mary is like talking about how all of their fortunes are tied up with the Duke falling in love with her because he's been in such bad temper since his injury and all of that. Like, he doesn't have any friends. He doesn't go out. He lives in the house. He is basically... like if Bruce Wayne only had the Batcave. Like he doesn't, he has no other alter ego. So.
Well, he does, but it's even worse.
But it's even worse, right? We'll learn that later.
That lives in the house, but he doesn't have like a daytime alter ego.
Yeah.
And Mary also notes that Emma is so much better than the previous betrothed. And she's like, listen, there's like nothing you could do to be worse than the last lady that was here and was engaged to him. So like, you're good.
And boy, is she right.
Yes.
Well, and didn't we already meet her at the dressmaking shop? Maybe not yet.
No.
Doesn't matter. Okay.
We've not met her.
Fair. So, okay. So then she goes down to dinner.
I mean, Emma has, and Emma didn't like her when she did her dress. But
yeah,
you didn't meet her. If that
yeah, that's true. Okay.
Okay.
So she goes out to dinner, and their place settings are at the far ends of like a 30-foot table or something ridiculous, something very Dukely.
This is like a kind of a tired gag, but I was still down for it.
Oh no, I was totally down for it. So then he mishears something she says, and she's like, well, this is stupid. And she pulls up her bowl and she marches down to the end of the table, and he's like, really? And she's like, yes, actually. Dinner, if you recall, involved conversation. So they go back and forth about like how English people speak about the weather and dumb things. And then she starts a nickname bit because she's like, what do I call you now that you're my husband? And he's like, you may call me Ashbury or Duke. And she's like, that's stupid. I can't do that. Like, that's not an intimacy. That's what everyone calls you.
Right.
And they go through the whole thing. There's nothing like appropriate from his actual name. And so then she starts with dear husband, sweeting, and heart. And he hates it, which I love. And then the cat jumps on the table and grabs one of their mackerel or something. And he's like, all right, this is over. And he throws his napkin and leaves. So then he goes to her room. She makes herself ready, as all England Times people do.
What does it mean?
I don't know, but she was ready because Emma is our girl.
Tessa.
Yeah.
I think that she's listening because she got deep in our Instagram comments last week.
I would die. I would literally die.
I know, but I think it's like maybe a 30% chance that she's listening to this. I don't know. We're pretty far in. But
I'm so starstruck if that's true. Like, her brain is incredible.
Like
she's so good.
Tessa Dare.
Hi, Tessa.
If you're listening, or if anyone else listening knows, what does it mean? What does it mean to make yourself ready? Is it just taking off the clothes? Is it rubbing of oils?
Not. Because remember, in this time, she doesn't get undressed because later on she's like, I would have gotten undressed, but I thought you'd want to undress me because she's so cute.
Because she wants it to be romantic because she likes him.
Yeah. Anyway, let us know. Tweet at us. Send us an email. We are not shitting you about this. We are not fucking around. We want to know what making ready means in England times. All right.
Yeah. And then pre-podcast, I will make myself ready for you, Melody, if you like.
Oh, get it.
When I find out what it means.
All right. We'll wash our vaginas for each other and then get on the FaceTime. Oh, boy. I'm still convinced that's what it means.
Already? I think, I thought it might also mean like lubing up with the oils too. I thought it was possible.
Maybe.
Meant to get. I don't know.
I don't know. Our imaginations are running wild and we need to be put to rest. Okay.
The other thing is, I'm sorry, I'm still on this. I feel like, do they know? Do the women know?
No,
because they usually don't even know what sex is. Like, listen back to the Duke and I. She was like, what goes into where? Like, when they say make yourself ready, like, I'm like,
like
I said, know what sex is.
Yeah, if I had the amount of knowledge that Duke and I lady had, and I was told to make myself ready, I would just sit there terrified for 30 minutes. I'd be like, what do I have to do? I would brush my hair neurotically. Like, it would be bad. It would be bad. I'd probably put on like 3 times too much perfume. I would do all the things that would make me a wildebeest instead of a blushing, glorious bride. Like, it would be so bad. Okay. All right. So he walks in and he turns out all the candles, and then he trips all over the place trying to get to the bed because he, I don't know, snuffed off all the candles.
And turned out made the fire.
Yeah,
he
had
banked
a word
the
for
fire.
This.
That was a very England
He banked
word.
it. No, it's a regular word for people who have fires.
We don't do that in Alaska. We just always.
Well, you only sort of do that with a fireplace. You bank it so that it doesn't, so that it like logs don't fall down, I think is what it is. Like in a wood stove, you don't have to do anything. Like banking, if anything, before you go to bed, you load that shit up with wood and then bounce.
Right.
But banking a fire, I think, is like making sure that things are flat. I could be wrong. Write us a letter. Tell us.
Yeah. Anyway.
Let me know.
Okay. But he does that. So it's like completely dark in the room and it's cold now because he made the fire go out.
Mm-hmm. And so he's trying to make his way over to the bed, finally gets there after like tripping a couple of times and stubbing his toe, and gets up next to her. So he moves his hand he finds her foot and then up her calf, and he's like, it's thicker than I thought it would be.
She's got a meaty calf, you guys.
She's got
a girl with a meaty calf.
Me too.
I am a girl with a meaty calf. So.
You know what? I'm just a girl with kinkles, so... I tried in the early stages of my dating Michael, I tried to convince him that I had dainty joints. And even
what
in
does
like
that even mean?
Well, like, you know how women are like, oh, she had such a lovely dainty wrist. Like her bracelet sat so beautifully on her dainty wrist. And I was like, Michael, I am so delicate and I have so many dainty joints.
You were a queen bird.
I did.
Do you know about Queen Bird?
No, tell me. Tell me all about it.
Oh, God. I hope this doesn't come off as mean.
Uh-oh.
So, my friend and I sometimes play this game.
Oh, no.
It's from, I think, maybe college or high school. It's called Queen Bird.
Okay.
Whenever you're in a crowd, particularly a bar, you look around and you try to find the Queen Bird. And... I don't even know how we came up with this or if it's from a TV show or like, I don't know where it came from. But I think it's just our weird brains. But here are the qualifications for the Queen Bird.
Tell me.
The Queen Bird must have hollow bones. The Queen Bird must be beaked. And the Queen Bird must have plumage.
Okay, how does this actually work on a human form?
Well, so, like, that's what's fun about
so
it.
The hollow bone is like, oh, okay. My brain is, the hollow bone is like, she's very thin. So she can't hold a lot of weight on her hollow bones.
It's waif-like. The wind could blow her away. But you could also argue that, like, a hollow-boned person is, like, a fragile, like, a creaky sort of person. The beak is the same thing. Like, logically, it would be somebody with a very sharp-looking nose. But maybe the person is wearing a jewelry or an outfit that you're like, well, that's a beak right there. Like, you can, beaks have been very pointy shoes before. You can kind of hairstyles,
Okay.
And then plumage is the same. It could be like a particularly loud outfit or hairstyle. You can argue about what plumage there is.
The Queen Bird doesn't have to caw?
No, not necessarily. But you could use that.
Does she do a mating dance?
You could use it.
I'm excited for this game.
I hope that doesn't sound bad. It sounds like we're just tearing down. But it's just a fun game. I'm not trying to like.
No, it's like your team,
ladies, and the
All right. So wait. But my point was, even in like the early stages, even in the euphoria that is dating early on. In the your poop must smell like roses stage, he looked at me and he was like, Melody, there is nothing dainty about you. Or something like that. It wasn't that, but it was like, you do not. Yeah. So I just have really sturdy ankles, which has gone to my benefit a lot of times. Anyway, we were talking about this almost bed scene.
All right, I just did a Google for Queen Bird and it does not come up anywhere. So this is apparently from the minds of me and us. Okay, all right.
So he finds out that she has 5 blankets on because she's been cold.
Because he put out the fire.
Yeah, and as he's like trying to take it off, he's like, "Good God, woman!" And she's like, "Don't worry, I'll do the last one." And she pushes it off, and he says that she wriggled in like the best way, and he's so excited. Mm-hmm. And then he realizes that he forgot his England Times lube. And so he decides...
His England Times oil lube.
Yeah. So he's like, well, I got to get her ready somehow. And this is the best turn of events for everyone involved because he starts just giving her a little manual stimulation that is most excellent. And she thinks so too, to the point that she says, she like whispers, please. And he promptly freaks out. He's like, oh, I'm a monster. I've pushed her too far. I've done all the things. Like, I'm scaring her. I gotta go. And he bounces. He goes walking. And she's like, oh no, like I did something wrong. He doesn't like that I liked it. I shouldn't show that I'm into it or something. She's very confused. So he goes walking and trying to walk off his raging hard on and probably rage. And that's when we get our first peek into the monster of Mayfair, which will come in later. He like chases off a boy who's doing a bad thing. And
he goes around vigilante style at night, beating up people who beat up their wives or steal things or whatever, much like Batman.
Okay, so I had such a hard time with
this. Looking at some Batman when she wrote this, because you got like some Two-Face stuff, you got some nighttime vigilante. There's a lot of cloaks swirling around.
It's very Darkwing Duck, except better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a hard time with this though, because between like it was sort of Two-Face, but there was also a little bit of like Deadpool in there for me, which I really liked. Because guys, this Duke of my heart only curses in Shakespeare. So that really ticked my Deadpool box, and I liked
Melody's
it.
really gonna like that. And then I looked at our notes. We share a Google Doc to make notes about the plot, so we don't get lost anymore. This is a new development, just so you know. So if you're like, man, 4 episodes ago they were really scrambling, that's correct. So we do this Google Doc now, and I put their names at the top of it. And so I was like, Emma Gladstone, Duke of Ashbury. And then Melody promptly added, he only curses in Shakespeare. And I'm like, that's something you don't even find out until like halfway through the book.
No, it's one of his best characteristics.
Apparently it deserves to be right next to his name in the Google Doc.
It did. Okay, so then the next morning, Emma wakes and like writes a note to Davina, and then she starts writing a note to her father, a letter to her father that's like, there's a lot of different iterations, but basically like, hey, you fucker. I'm doing well now, and a good man did want me. So get out of here. And he's a duke also. He got so many monies. He's making it rain all over my ruined person.
She's kind of alluded to it. Should we just say what happened to her? I think
let's. Well, okay. I was gonna save it until they till they actually.
Okay, that's fine. But her dad was a monster. Like she keeps alluding to the fact that her dad turned her out at some point.
Well, and she's been on her own for the past 6 years. A gentleman's daughter has been on her own since she was 16. Not cool. Okay,
so badminton.
Well, but I love this part because of last night. She's like wondering if he actually wants her, because she writes in the letter like, and a good man wants me, and then she's like, but does he? Because like as soon as I showed I was into it, he left. Like he might just be doing his duty. Of course he's not.
And she thought maybe like she showed that she was into it, and he was like, you harlot, like
yes,
you need
you
to
Jezebel,
not be so
harloty and Jezebel.
Yeah.
You sluts McGee.
Strumpet.
Strumpet.
It's my favorite word.
I love it. Oh yeah, because her father told her that no decent man will ever have her, and I want to punch everyone in the face. Okay, so she goes exploring, and she hears grunting, and I was red herringed right out of there.
You were?
I didn't fall for the bait, but I was like, what is happening in there? There's like grunting, and then Ash says to Khan that it's his turn to receive. And she walks in, and they're playing badminton, and it's super cute.
Which was not a game at the time.
Yes.
Did you read her note?
I did read that. I loved it. She was like, hey guys, I know. Don't send me letters about how badminton wasn't a thing. I just knew that you wouldn't know what I was talking about unless I said it.
Yeah.
And it was very smart. Good job. Good job, Tessa Dare.
They're playing badminton so that he can exercise his bad shoulder.
Yeah, because he has to keep his skin stretched out. Otherwise he'll lose all movement. And Khan is like, I am the butler. This is not normal butlery duties.
Yeah. And it turns out he makes him do all kinds of stuff. Like, he makes him play badminton. He makes him, like, box with him. He makes him play
fencing.
Fencing.
He makes him waltz. He tried to waltz with him once. It's so cute. So Khan gives her his racket and runs the hell away. And he mouths the word, save me. And this begins this adorable segment between them. She says that they're going to play. And if she wins, he's going to give her a modicum of respect. She goes, how much is a modicum anyway? Somewhere between a sou-cent and a wit, I imagine. Then I want an ounce. An ounce? 2 ounces. Actually, no. I should like a full pint of respect. He shook his head. Now you're just being greedy. Like, the banter in this is so good.
What I like is she's playing to win, but like to get her respect or whatever. She's like real bad at badminton.
She's probably never played.
Yeah, but in these books, a lot of times they just come out of nowhere and they're
totally.
real good at stuff. Like what's her face and
Yeah.
Jane was like real good at darts, which was fine. I liked that Jane was good at darts, but it was kind of nice to have her like just be like, "Fuck, I'm
right,
real bad at this."
Totally." So then, and he's like, "Okay, if I win, you have to leave me alone all day, like during the day. You have to stick to the agreement." She's like, "Fine." And they play, and as they play, they banter more. She starts with more nicknames, and he's like, "You won't do that." And then they start going back and forth about how much they've been through. She's like, "I got thrown out when I was 16, and I've been on my own." And he's like, "Well, I had a mortar hit me, and I was near death for about a year," and like, blah. Oh, God, I loved it. And then finally, she calls him Lambkin. Oh, he shows her how to serve. And then she calls him Lambkin, and he chases her and lifts her over his shoulder, and they like play, but he's in pain. And so she's like, "You are in pain. Don't lie to me." And he's like, "No, it's none of your concern." She's like, "I am your wife. That is my job. My job is to be concerned about you. My job is to care." And it's like breaking his heart. He's like, "You can't do this to me." I mean, he's saying this to himself. He's like, "You can't. This is killing me." And then Khan breaks in. And it's like, "Your solicitor's here."
Oh, not before he teaches her how to serve, Melanie.
I told you that.
Oh, sorry. I
said that.
I was reading for quotes here. Sorry. I apologize.
Oh, good.
Okay, so he leaves.
So then that night, she is impatient for his touch. And his first words upon entering, which I love, are, "Tonight it will be all business. In, out, done." And she's like, she never thought that this like gruff treatment would do it for her, but she is into it.
She's kind of about it, which I like.
Yeah, I loved it. So he pulls back the cover and she's naked. And he's like, "Good God, why are you naked?" And she's like, "Why would I not be naked? Like, I thought you wanted to undress me, which is the only reason I was wearing clothes. Like, I thought that was making myself ready."
Right.
All right?
What do you want, man?
Really, though, what does he want? So he's just like, "Okay, fine. You're naked. Great." And she gets up on her elbow and she's like, "What am I doing wrong? Like, do you just want somebody to like lay there listlessly?" And he essentially tells her yes. And my favorite is that she goes, "Very well, I'll try." Like, because it would be hard for the best of us if we're really enjoying ourselves just to lay back and think of England. I don't want to think about England at all at that point. So then, even though he says that, as he starts touching her, she feels like he doesn't think that that's the way it should be. And so he's touching her all over and he starts talking to himself. He's like, "How are you here? How did I manage it?" And then he grabs her hair and he's like, "This is lovely." And everyone is just swooning all over the place.
And she can't stay still. Like,
and she can't stay still. No, he's touching her all over. Oh, and so then she touches his chest because, she wants to be an active partner in this. And he stiffens. And she's like, I'm sorry. And
he's like, "We discussed this."
Yeah. And so he shoots her down. And then he's just like, "All right, fine. Getting down to bit." Like, he sort of comes back to himself. And he's like, "Good. I have a thing to do. I came here to do a thing."
Not before he says, so he's like, "We discussed this." And she's like, "No, I'm sorry. I forgot. When you touch me that way, yeah. And he's like, "Don't forget it again," he said in a low, thrilling voice, "or I'll be forced to tie you to the bed." At this suggestion, her intimate muscles fluttered. Is that meant to be a threat? Because I don't seem to find the idea entirely objectionable.
So you don't?
She licked her bottom lip. "Well, you're very good at this, apparently. And what with the dark, and it's all very shadowy and sensual, like one of those feverish dreams one has on a hot summer's night." This is something you dream about, being pawed by a hulking stranger in the dark? Emma squeaked out her tentative reply. "Maybe?" Unbearable moments passed in silence. "You are incredible," he said. I love it's being pawed by a hulking man in the dark, and she's like, "Maybe."
I mean,
yeah, it's good times.
And it's so good. And so then he's like, "Okay, fine. You know what? You're right. Like, let's get down to business." So he kneels in between her legs, but then just as like he puts his erection over her slickness and she is all into it, just as he's about to enter her, he stills. And she's like, no. Like, I'm fine.
Don't
I'm
stop.
good.
Very, very fine.
I am very, very fine. I'm good to go. And he's like, shh, we are not alone. Because he sees these two eyes off in the distance. And then the cat attacks him. It's hilarious. Then he leaves again and he goes walking, probably to beat some fuckers up in order to assuage his frustration. Okay, we might have to all go walk off our tumescent protuberances because that is the end of this episode. Next week, we're definitely going to be back for part 2 and the fabulous conclusion of Tessa Dare's The Duchess deal. Erin and I have a joint lady love this week, and that is recalibrate when you have to. This is our first voyage into multiple part episode land, and I'm nervous about it just because I'm a perfectionist who likes to give people what they want, but we've gotten such an incredible response from Romancelandia, partially because it's just the best place on earth. Everyone is so supportive and accepting. It's a lovely, lovely place to be. So thanks for being patient, and thanks for understanding that like real life can become a bit of a, well, werecunt. Yeah, take some time for you. That's our lady love. If you need to drop something or reduce something or rethink something, don't hesitate. Just figure it out, because your health, your family, and your well-being has to come before everything else. All right, you can find us on all the social media. Instagrams. At Heaving Bosoms. Podcast. Facebook.
Podcast.com. At Heaving Bosoms.
No. Facebook is at Heaving Bosoms Podcast. Twitter, at Heaving_Bosoms.
Nope. Yeah, that's right.
What?
Never mind. Yep, that's right. Never mind. Yep.
Gmail is heavingbosomspodcast@gmail.com. We love your emails. We love your tweets. We love your grams. We love fucking all of it. Seriously. Like, it makes my week every time I see a notification. And, yeah, so keep being a badass.
And love yourself as much as you love turning into a werecunt under the full moon.
Yes. I love you to pieces.
I love you so much, Mel.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, you. Yes, listener, you. Are you loving the show? If so, please leave a rating and review in your podcast app. The 90 seconds you take to say something nice not only helps new people find the show, but it makes me super smile over at HBHQ. Also, I've had a few people ask, and the answer is yes. We are still doing the 5-star bribe. If you leave us a review with 5 stars, then we'll do whatever book you want. We're real deep into the list, though, so it might be a while. Lilas! Okay, back to the show.